My mother-in-law tried to steal my 5-year-old to hand him to my husband's golden child brother because he deserved a proper family and his wife couldn't have kids. When my husband found out, he didn't shout. He did this. The next day, their lives started to unravel. When my mother-in-law visits, it's not a visit. It's an invasion with luggage. Matthew warned me earlier that day like he was announcing bad weather. She's coming for a couple of nights. A couple of nights, I repeated. So, 2 sunsets and a full psychological demolition. She's my mom, Lauren. And I'm your wife. I didn't sign up for a live-in heckler. He tried the calm voice, the one he used with customer service reps and our toddler when she decided socks were an act of violence. We'll be fine. Sure. And sharks are just enthusiastic swimmers. The thing is, this wasn't new. His mom had been at war with me since the day she found out I existed. She didn't even hate me in a creative way. It was the greatest hits on loop. I was a gold digger. I was cheating. Ethan wasn't really mine. Emma wasn't really his. Matthew was too nice and therefore doomed. She also had a bizarre fixation on antlers. She loved hinting my husband had them, like she thought humiliation was a family heirloom. Matthew's dad never joined in. He was quiet, gentle, the kind of man who apologized to furniture when he bumped into it. He missed the kids. He missed birthdays. He missed everything because his wife ran the family like a gated community. And Matthew? Matthew had spent his whole life being the other son. Ryan, the older brother, was the golden child. The one who was going places. The one who could do no wrong. Matthew was the spare. His mom had never said it like that, of course. She didn't need to. She'd just say things like, Ryan always knew how to handle life, while staring right at Matthew as if he was a stain. So when she texted him, I'm on my way. I'll stay over. It wasn't a request. It was a command in emoji form. I told Matthew one condition. If she was coming, the kids weren't staying. My mom picked up Ethan and Emma after daycare, took them home with her like she was evacuating puppies before a flood. Ethan, 5 years old, all dark hair and serious eyes, asked if Grandma was being mean again. Emma, 3, curls everywhere, just waved and said, Bye, Daddy, like she was leaving for college. I stayed late at work, not because I had to, because I didn't want to walk into my own home and feel like a guest. By the time I got back to our apartment in Columbus, the hallway smelled like someone's burnt dinner and stale carpet. Normal building stuff. Ordinary. Inside my apartment? Quiet. That was my first mistake. Thinking quiet meant peace. I shut the door softly, slipped off my shoes, and headed down the hall. I wasn't trying to spy. I was trying to pee. Then I heard my name. Not Lauren, honey. Not Lauren, hi. The way people say your name when they're sliding a knife under it. Lauren, my mother-in-law said, like it tasted sour. I stopped. Right there in the hallway, bag still on my shoulder. The living room was around the corner. I couldn't see them, but I could hear them. Mother and son. Talking in that low, conspiratorial tone people use when they think they're clever. And then she said it. I'm telling you, you're Lauren. She had Ethan with Ryan. My stomach dropped so fast I swear my body forgot how gravity worked. Matthew's voice came out tight. What are you talking about? Oh, don't act stupid. I saw her with him. I knew it. She trapped you. First she tried to ruin Ryan's life, and now she ruined yours. Matthew made a sound, half disbelief, half anger. She was pregnant when I met her. You know that. That's the point, she snapped. She needed a man. A good man. A gullible man. I didn't breathe. I just stood there, listening to someone rewrite my life like she owned the copyright. And then she pivoted. Not back to insults. Forward. To a plan. They can't have a baby, she said. Ryan and Madison, years of trying. Nothing. And you know Madison's father, he's not going to wait forever for grandchildren. My brain snagged on the name Madison, Ryan's wife. I'd never met her. I'd seen one photo once, years ago, Glossy hair, perfect smile, the kind of woman who looked like she'd never had to beg a landlord for an extension. My mother-in-law continued, voice rising with excitement like she was describing a bargain deal. So why should they suffer? Ethan is right there. He's old enough, he's healthy, he's already potty trained. No diapers, no ruined figure, just a ready-made boy. My nails dug into my palm. Matthew finally spoke like he meant it. Mom, stop. Don't you dare tell me to stop, she hissed. I'm trying to fix things. Ryan deserves a son. And I don't? Matthew said quietly. That silence after his question was loud. Then she did what she always did. Dismissed him. You have Emma. You can have another one. Lauren seems to pop them out whenever she wants. I felt something hot and sharp crawl up my throat. Matthew's voice went colder. You're talking about my son. She laughed once. Not kindly. Your son. Sure. That's what we're calling him now. And then, like she'd been holding this part back for the right moment, she lowered her voice. This is what we do, she said. We go to family court. Ryan files for paternity. The court orders a DNA test. Once he's legally established as the father, we push for custody. Matthew's breath hitched. Custody? He's never even met Ethan. Details, she snapped. That's what lawyers are for, and you're going to help. I'm not. Oh, yes, you are, she cut in. You'll testify that Lauren is unstable, that she yells, that she dumps the kids on her mother, that she's unfit. I actually blinked, because the audacity was almost impressive. Matthew's voice cracked. Lauren is a good mother. My mother-in-law made a dismissive noise. A good mother who sent her kids away today. See? I already know. Don't worry. I'll write it all down for you. What to say. How to say it. Courts love a calm, concerned husband. She was talking about me like I was an enemy nation, and about my child like he was a transferable asset. I finally moved. One step forward. Floorboard creaked. Silence. Then Matthew spoke, softer. Lauren? I rounded the corner. They were sitting on the couch like this was casual family bonding. His mom had her handbag beside her, like she'd settled in, like she belonged. Her face brightened the second she saw me. That fake smile snapped into place so fast it should have earned her an award. Oh, she said. Lauren, you're home. Get out, I said. She blinked. Excuse me? You heard me. Matthew stood up like his body had decided before his mind caught up. He looked wrecked, like someone had opened a trapdoor under everything he believed about his family. Lauren. I held up a hand. Not at him. At her. You don't get to sit in my living room and plan to steal my child, I said. You don't get to call me unstable while you're actively plotting kidnapping with paperwork. Kidnapping? She scoffed. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic is showing up uninvited with luggage, I said. This is criminal. She shot Matthew a look that said, handle your wife. He didn't. Instead, he said, in a voice I'd never heard from him before. Flat, firm. Mom, leave. Her mouth actually fell open. Matthew, now. She stood slowly, like she couldn't believe her feet were obeying. Then came the tantrum. She called me names. She called me a manipulator. She called me things I won't repeat because I'm trying to keep the story monetizable. She tried guilt. After everything I've done for you. Matthew didn't flinch. You've done nothing for me except make me feel small. That did it. She grabbed her bag, marched to the door, and turned back with the kind of smile you see right before someone says something unforgivable. You'll regret this, she said. I will still get that boy where he belongs. And then she left. The door shut. The apartment went still. Matthew stared at the spot she'd been standing like he expected her to reappear and say it was all a joke. It wasn't. He turned to me, eyes glassy. Lauren, did you know? I didn't even know she was this insane, I said, voice shaking. But no, I didn't know anything about your brother. I didn't know she'd been sitting on whatever this is. Matthew sank onto the couch like someone had unplugged him. Then he looked up, and I saw the switch flip. Not rage, not drama. Resolve. We're not waiting, he said. For what? For her to start calling people. For Ryan to show up. For CPS to knock on our door because my mother decided she's the Department of Family Services. He took his phone out, thumb moving fast. I'm calling a family law attorney in the morning, he said. And we're starting the step-parent adoption for Ethan. Official. Legal. Locked down. My heart slammed. Matthew, I've wanted to do it, he said quietly. For a long time. I didn't push because I thought... He swallowed. I thought my family would calm down. I thought my mom would eventually stop. He let out a humorless laugh. My mom doesn't stop. She escalates. I sat next to him. My hands were shaking so hard I had to press them between my knees. I'm sorry, he said, like he'd personally invited the devil to dinner. I don't care about your mom, I said. I care about Ethan. Matthew nodded. So do I, he said. And I'm done being the son who stays quiet. That night, I barely slept. Not because I was scared of court, because I finally understood something I'd been missing for years. My mother-in-law hadn't hated me for fun. She'd hated me because I was a threat to her carefully arranged lie. I didn't plan to be a single mom. I planned to be a normal person with normal problems, like choosing paint colors and forgetting to defrost chicken. Then I met Ryan. He showed up like a romance novel cliché. Nice car, perfect smile. Accidental run-in that didn't feel accidental. He offered me a ride once. I declined. He parked anyway and walked me home like it was charming instead of calculated. He was charming. That's why it worked. He asked questions. He remembered details. He sent flowers just because. When you grow up with a father who treats kindness like weakness, attention feels like oxygen. I fell hard, and it wasn't until later, much later, that I noticed the pattern. He never took me to public places where someone might recognize him. He never introduced me to friends. He never spent holidays with me. He always had an excuse. Work, family, travel, stress. At the time, I told myself it meant he was busy. Now I know it meant he was hiding. When I got pregnant, the mask didn't slip. It shattered. He didn't panic. He didn't cry. He didn't even look surprised. He just said, very calmly, like he was discussing a parking ticket, "You're not having it." I stared at him. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." "I'm pregnant," I said. "It's not a group project." His jaw tightened. He didn't want a baby. He didn't want responsibility. He didn't want consequences. He wanted me quiet. When I said no, he tried persuasion, then intimidation, then the coldest silence I've ever felt from another human being. I left. I had a job, barely. A tiny apartment, barely. A mother who loved me, and a father who treated my existence like a personal insult. My boss let me work remotely part-time when I started showing. It wasn't some magical guaranteed thing, just a decent employer who didn't want to lose a worker. He promised my position would still be there when I came back. I held on to that promise like a life raft. Ethan was born on New Year's Eve. The nurses kept saying things like, "What a way to start the year." I kept thinking, please let me survive this year. My dad didn't take the news well. He did that thing where men disguise cruelty as comedy. "So who's the lucky guy? Your boss? Or someone even worse?" When I brought Ethan home, my dad started drinking harder, yelling more, telling me I'd shamed the family, threatening to throw me out. The police showed up twice because neighbors called. Nothing changed. Eventually, I did leave. Not because I wanted to, because staying meant raising my child inside a storm. My mom helped as much as she could. She also had one suggestion that sounded logical when you're exhausted and scared. "Maybe you should get married." she said one night. Not for love, for safety, for stability, for a roof that couldn't be ripped away on a drunk man's whim. And yes, that's humiliating to admit. But being a single mom with an infant doesn't come with pride privileges. It comes with survival math. Then I met Matthew. It wasn't instant fireworks. It was something better. Consistency. He didn't flinch at the stroller. He didn't ask where Ethan's father was like it was a criminal background check. He made a bottle without being asked. He showed up when he said he would. And when Ethan toddled over one day and grabbed Matthew's finger, Matthew didn't freeze. He smiled. Like it mattered. When we got married, my mother-in-law's hatred turned from passive to obsessive. She didn't just dislike me. She wanted me erased. I didn't know much about Ryan anymore. I hadn't seen him since the day I walked away. Matthew didn't talk about him either. Not really. Whenever Ryan's name came up, Matthew's shoulders would tighten, like his body remembered old bruises. His mom, on the other hand, talked about Ryan constantly. Ryan's promotions, Ryan's house, Ryan's vacations, Ryan's perfect marriage. It was always Ryan and Madison, said with this reverent tone, like Madison was proof their family was finally respectable. I assumed Madison was simply rich. Later, I learned she wasn't just rich. She was the CEO's daughter. The reason Ryan had a corner office. The reason he drove the car that made people nod approvingly. Madison wanted a baby. Ryan wanted an image. Those wants do not match. Madison tried everything. Specialists, clinics, hope dressed up as appointments. When it didn't work, she started talking about adoption. That's what my mother-in-law couldn't tolerate. To her, adoption wasn't a family. It was a failure. So Madison compromised. She started volunteering. Not at an orphanage, because that's not really how it works here, but with a nonprofit that supported foster placements and families in crisis. Donation drives, supply bundles, reading programs. Sometimes she spent evenings at a children's hospital program, holding babies who needed comfort. She wanted to practice being needed. Her father hated it. Her husband mocked it. My mother-in-law tolerated it because she thought it was a phase. And then, one evening, Madison walked home after volunteering and saw a mom sitting near a playground with two little kids, Ethan and Emma. My kids. Madison told me later she stopped walking without realizing she'd stopped. Because it looked like something she'd been trying to reach for, something warm and ordinary and real. She approached and said something like, "Sorry, you're a beautiful family." I did what most moms do when a stranger compliments your children. I smiled politely while mentally reviewing self-defense options. Madison introduced herself. Ethan, who has never met a social boundary he respected, introduced himself too. "I'm Ethan," he said proudly. Madison froze for half a second. Because Ethan has Ryan's face. Not maybe. Not a little. Enough that if you see it once, you can't unsee it. And then Matthew walked up. Madison recognized him from photos. She hadn't met him before. She hadn't met me. She hadn't met our kids. Because every time she asked about Matthew's family, my mother-in-law changed the subject like it was a stain. Madison waved and made small talk. She left politely when her phone rang. And then she called her husband. Ryan. She told him she'd met Matthew and his wife and the kids near their building. There was a pause on the line, long enough to feel heavy. Ryan tried to sound normal. "Why were they there?" "I think they live there," Madison said, confused. "They were walking from daycare. Their son is adorable. He looks a lot like you, actually." Ryan laughed too fast. "That's because he's my nephew," he said. Madison, still hopeful, still kind, said, "We should all have dinner. A real family dinner. I want to know them. It's weird that we've never met." Ryan's stomach probably fell through the floor because what she was describing was his worst nightmare. His wife, his mother, his father-in-law, his ex, his child. All in one room, he tried to distract her. He tried to flirt. He tried to push the conversation off a cliff and drive away. And Madison, stubborn in a way people mistake for naive, kept talking about how nice it would be. Ryan didn't sleep that night. Neither did I, because while Madison was discovering a puzzle piece, my mother-in-law was packing her next move. The morning after my mother-in-law got kicked out, Matthew and I sat at our kitchen table with coffee we didn't drink. Ethan and Emma were still at my mom's. Safe. Matthew called a family law attorney, left a message, called another, booked a consult. Then the next thing happened, exactly like Matthew predicted. A knock at the door. Not my mother-in-law. A woman with a badge and a clipboard. A social worker. CPS. Someone had reported concerns about our household. Neglect, emotional instability, unsafe environment. The list sounded suspiciously like my mother-in-law's vocabulary. The social worker was polite, professional. She asked to see the kids. I told her they were at my mother's house. I offered the address. I offered my mom's phone number. I offered daycare records, pediatrician info, immunization schedules. Because here's the thing, if someone is trying to burn your life down with bureaucracy, you don't show them emotion. You show them binders. Matthew stood beside me the whole time, calm as a locked door. The social worker looked around, noted we had food, beds, toys, clean clothes, no bruises, no screaming. She asked gentle questions. I answered gently. When she left, she said, "I don't see anything concerning here, but I do recommend you document everything. Keep records. If there's a family conflict, sometimes these reports are retaliatory." I almost laughed. "Sometimes," she said. After she left, I sat down and put my head on the table. Matthew rested a hand on my back. "She's starting," he said. "Good," I said, voice muffled against the wood. "Because now I know what it looks like, and I can fight it." That day, our attorney explained the reality. Ryan could file a paternity action, a court could order genetic testing, but custody wasn't automatic, not even close. And the step-parent adoption, if we moved fast, would build a legal wall around Ethan that my mother-in-law couldn't climb with rumors alone. Then the attorney added the part nobody likes to hear, but everybody needs. "We'll have to formally notify Ryan," she said. "If he agrees, he can sign consent and we move forward. If he fights it, we'll have to prove he abandoned the child, no support, no relationship, no involvement, or the court won't terminate his rights." Translation. Paper was going to matter. A lot. "It won't be instant," the attorney said, "but we'll start. And we'll also talk about a protection order if she escalates physically." Physically. I didn't like that word. It sounded like a warning. A few days later, I opened my door and found Madison standing there. No makeup, hair pulled back, jeans and a hoodie. Not the glossy photo version, just a woman who looked like she hadn't slept. "Hi," she said carefully. "I'm Madison." Matthew stepped into view behind me. His posture changed immediately, protective, tense. Madison lifted her hands slightly, palms out. "I'm not here to take anyone," she said fast. "I swear, I need to understand what's happening." I stared at her, and something in my anger shifted. Because this woman looked like someone had pushed her into a story she didn't consent to. "Come in," I said. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table that had become my war room. Madison's eyes flicked around the apartment like she was memorizing details, like she was trying to figure out if we were monsters. "I met you the other night," she said softly. "Your kids, Ethan and Emma." I nodded. "And then your mother-in-law showed up at my house," she continued, voice tightening. "She told me things." Matthew's jaw clenched. Madison swallowed. "She said you're unstable," she said. "That you're trying to trap my husband's family. That you're keeping Ethan away from his real father." I didn't interrupt. I let her say it. Because sometimes you need to hear the lie out loud to understand how bold it is. Madison's eyes filled. "I didn't believe her," she whispered. Not fully, but I started thinking about Ethan's face. And then I couldn't stop thinking. Matthew leaned forward slightly. Madison, he said carefully, did Ryan ever tell you he had a child? Her lips parted. She shook her head once. No, she said. He said he didn't want kids. Ever. There it was. I took a breath. Then I told her the truth. Not dramatically, not with crying, with facts. Ryan and I, years ago. Pregnancy, his demand, my refusal, his disappearance. Madison listened like someone watching a floor collapse in slow motion. When I finished, she stared down at her hands. So he knew, she said. He knew this whole time. Yes, I said. And so did your mother-in-law. Madison's throat bobbed. I've spent years thinking I was the problem, she whispered. I've been to clinics. I've been told to be patient, to relax, to stop stressing. And he had a child already. Matthew spoke quietly. My mom wants Ethan because it's convenient, he said, not because she cares. Madison laughed once. It was small and broken. She told me she wanted a grandbaby so badly, Madison said. She acted like she was on my side. Matthew's expression didn't change. My mom is always on her side, he said. She just borrows other people's pain when it helps. Madison wiped her face. I need to talk to Ryan, she said. Matthew stood. I'll be here, he said. But maybe don't do it alone. Madison shook her head, already rising. I've been alone in this marriage for a while, she said. I just didn't know it. She left. And less than an hour later, Ryan showed up. Ryan's knock was firm, like he owned the hallway. Matthew looked through the peephole and went still. He's here, he said. I didn't ask who. I already knew. Matthew stepped into the hallway and pulled the door mostly closed behind him, blocking Ryan's view into the apartment. I stood a few feet back, heart pounding. Ryan's voice carried through the thin door like arrogance had its own speaker system. This is insane, Ryan said. What did you tell her? Matthew's voice was calm. Too calm. The truth, Ryan scoffed. You don't know the truth. You know what she claims. She didn't claim, Matthew said. Mom did. Mom sat on my couch and laid out a plan to take Ethan. There was a pause. Then Ryan's voice dropped. Look, Mom gets carried away. You know how she is. Matthew laughed once. Dark. I do. That's why you married up and left me to deal with her. Ryan's tone sharpened. Don't turn this into sibling therapy. Madison is upset. Her dad is upset. You have no idea what you've just done to my life. Matthew's voice stayed steady. You did it to your life, he said. You did it when you walked away from Lauren. You did it when you lied to your wife. Ryan exhaled. Then he did something that sounded almost like desperation. I can fix it, he said. I can talk to Madison. I can calm her down. You just need to not interfere. Matthew didn't answer right away. When he did, his words were quiet but sharp. Do you love her? Silence. Ryan didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He said, She's my wife. Matthew's voice turned colder. If she's just your ladder, leave her alone, he said. But if you actually love her, fight for her. Apologize like you mean it, and stop letting Mom run your life. Ryan made a frustrated sound. You don't understand what I'm up against. Matthew finally snapped. Oh, I understand, he said. You're up against consequences. Another pause. Then Ryan said low, What about Ethan? Matthew's answer came without hesitation. He's my son. Ryan's voice tightened. Biologically, don't, Matthew warned. Don't you dare reduce him to biology when you've been absent his whole life. Ryan's breathing sounded heavier. Then softer, he said, "I never wanted kids." Matthew didn't soften. "Then you should have used protection," he said. Ryan fell silent. After a beat, he said, "Where is Madison?" Matthew's voice changed, protective, firm. "She's safe," he said. "And you're not seeing her tonight." Ryan swore under his breath. Then he left. Matthew came back inside and locked the door. I stared at him. His hands were shaking slightly. "You okay?" I asked. He exhaled. "No," he said. "But I'm done." That night, Madison texted me one sentence. "I'm at a friend's house. I filed for divorce." I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Because the lie wasn't just crashing our family, it was taking down theirs too. The next day was supposed to be boring. Kids at daycare, work, pickup, dinner, normal. Madison was staying with a friend a few blocks from our building. Earlier that morning, she'd texted me, "If you're okay with it, I'd like to talk later, somewhere outside, somewhere public. I just need air." I told her we'd figure something out. My mom picked up Ethan and Emma and walked them back toward our building. The kids were laughing, talking about finger painting and snack time like the world wasn't on fire. They were 10 feet from the lobby when my mother-in-law stepped out from behind a parked car. My mom told me later it was like watching a trap spring. My mother-in-law grabbed Ethan's arm and yanked him toward her. "Come on," she snapped. "You're going where you belong." Ethan screamed. My mom grabbed his other hand. "Let go!" my mom shouted. "What are you doing?" Emma started crying so hard she hiccuped. My mother-in-law tried to peel Ethan away like he was tape. My mom looked around wildly. People were there, but people freeze. People pretend not to see. People hate getting involved. Then my mom did what you do when you're out of politeness and into survival. She yelled, "Help! She's trying to take my grandson!" A woman on a bench near the playground turned and ran. It was Madison. My mother-in-law saw her and instantly her face changed. That syrupy, affectionate mask slid back on. "Maddie!" she cried, like this was a sweet family reunion. "Oh, honey, thank God you're here." Madison didn't slow down. She stepped between them, eyes sharp. "Let go," she said. My mother-in-law laughed nervously. "I'm just—" "Let go," my mother-in-law's smile twitched. Madison's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Police are already on the way," she said. "And if you don't let him go, you're going to be explaining to an officer why you were physically pulling a screaming child off a sidewalk." My mother-in-law's fingers loosened. Ethan jerked free and clung to my mom, shaking. My mother-in-law turned on Madison, furious. "You ungrateful little—" Madison cut her off. "I filed for divorce," she said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I packed Ryan's things. I dropped them at your place. He didn't even ask why, because he already knows." My mother-in-law's face went white, then red. Then she did what she always did when cornered. Blame. "This is Matthew and Lauren," she spit. "They poisoned you against us." Madison's eyes didn't leave hers. "No," she said. "You did." A patrol car rolled up. Then another. An officer approached. Another spoke with my mom. Another looked at Ethan, still trembling, and asked gentle questions. My mother-in-law started talking fast. Too fast. About being a grandmother. About family. About misunderstandings. The officer's expression didn't change. He asked one question that mattered. "Did you have permission to take the child?" My mother-in-law froze. Because she didn't. Because she'd never believed she needed it. That day ended with a report, a warning, and a very clear message from the system my mother-in-law thought she could manipulate. You don't get to snatch children in public and call it love. The aftermath wasn't cinematic. It was paperwork, protective order filing, attorney emails, witness statements. CPS follow-up closing the case as unfounded. Daycare being told who was authorized for pickup. Names, photos, passwords. We moved faster on the step-parent adoption. Our lawyer warned us Ryan might try something out of panic or spite, but Ryan didn't file. Not then, because Madison's father had lawyers too, and those lawyers were now looking at Ryan like he was a liability that needed removing. Madison told me later her father didn't yell. He didn't have to. He just said, very quietly, "I gave him a career. I can take it back." Ryan's perfect life started folding in on itself. My mother-in-law tried to keep fighting. She called. She texted. She left voicemails that sounded like threats wrapped in religious concern. Matthew blocked her. His father called once. Quiet, shaky. "I'm sorry," his dad said. "I didn't know it got this bad." Matthew's voice softened for the first time in weeks. "I know," he said. "You just let her run everything." His dad didn't deny it. "I miss the kids," he whispered. "You can see them," Matthew said. "But if you bring her, if you even hint at her plans, we're done." His dad agreed. And for the first time in Matthew's life, he set a boundary his mother couldn't bulldoze. As for my mother-in-law, her public grab for Ethan didn't just get her in trouble. It cracked her. She started spiraling, telling people we were stealing her grandson, that the courts were corrupt, that Madison was brainwashed. She showed up once at our building again, far enough away to be technically not violating the temporary order, but close enough to feel like a threat. Then she escalated. She screamed at a neighbor, threw something, started ranting in the lobby. Someone called 911. Not because they hated her, because she looked dangerous. That's what ends people like her, eventually. Not karma. A concerned stranger with a phone. She was taken for evaluation. Not sent away forever like a movie, but held, assessed, processed. And when the judge reviewed the reports, the attempted grab, the CPS misuse, the volatility, the court didn't treat her like a loving grandmother. It treated her like what she'd become. A risk. Months later, we stood in a courthouse hallway that smelled like disinfectant and tired decisions. Ethan clung to my hand, wearing a tiny button-down shirt my mom bought like this was picture day. Matthew looked like he was about to either cry or punch a wall, possibly both. When the judge signed the final order, it wasn't emotional in the room. No swelling music, no applause, just the scratch of a pen and the sound of something becoming official. Matthew became Ethan's legal father. On paper. In real life, he'd been that for years, through fevers, nightmares, daycare drop-offs, and the thousand small moments that build a family. But paper matters when people like my mother-in-law exist. We walked out. Ethan asked, "So, you're really my dad?" Matthew crouched down so he was eye level. "I've been your dad," he said. "Now the court agrees." Ethan nodded like that made sense. Then he smiled and ran ahead, dragging Emma behind him like she was a reluctant sidekick. I exhaled. Not relief. Something deeper. The feeling of finally locking a door you didn't realize had been open. Madison sent me a photo a few weeks later. A small apartment. Boxes. A coffee mug that said start over like it was trying too hard. Her message was simple. I thought I needed a baby to feel like a family. Turns out I just needed the truth. Ryan disappeared from our orbit after that. Lawyers handled what people like him always handle with lawyers, consequences they didn't expect. My mother-in-law never apologized. Of course she didn't. Apologies require self-awareness. She did, however, learn something. Not empathy, not humility. Just the hard American truth she couldn't bully her way around. Family isn't who claims you. Family is who protects you. And this time, that was us. Thanks for watching. If this story hit close to home, give it a like, subscribe for more, and drop a comment. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? I'd love to hear your perspective.